If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today because we bring the discussion with the sources.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome to episode 146. Yes, folks, we are at 146 episodes. And the funny thing here is that that's got to be one episode every week for over 2 years. Now, maybe in fairness,
couple.
Yeah, maybe we miss a few, Hannah. maybe we did, but I don't know. You know, it almost seems like we've done this for more than 2 years.
Yeah, because 52 weeks in a year is 104, and we're at 140, so I'm pretty sure, just by the basic math on that one, that we've got this in the bag a solid 2 years plus about 38 weeks.
Yeah.
36 weeks. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
We do this in different places almost every time, though. I'm at work right now at my shop, which is different than I used to come out to your place after I was done with work, and then I was in my basement hiding all the time because it's just that it was nice when we could both get in the same spot, but at least we're just making it work through the miracle of the internet, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe someday you can put like you have like 3 offices at your office that you guys never use. Maybe you can like make one of them into like a bedroom, and then like I could come out, we can record, I can get drunk and go to work the next morning. That way I don't have to drive home. You just need a shower there.
Yeah, we do. We used to have a washing machine and all that stuff here, but no, we don't have a shower. I got a new trash pump that'll suck about 5,000 gallons of water out of the loading bay we have. That'll hose you down good and quick and get you clean and ready for work.
Yeah, I think I'll pass. I'll pass on that.
All right.
Yeah, but you never know, you know, and there's other things, you know, we have a lot going on in our personal lives. You know, for example, this weekend, we took my daughters actually my whole family to see My Neighbor Totoro. And I don't know if you've ever seen that anime, but it's an amazing. Okay, so does your daughter sit and watch movies at all?
Not quite to that point. Like I don't. Right. Basically, I know that's Studio Ghibli, and so like. I haven't seen all of their stuff, and I mean it's worth it definitely. I probably will watch those movies with my daughter when she's a little bit older, because she can sit for something that she knows and recognizes for about an hour, and then she's like up and running doing something. So maybe a little bit like, but once she's able to like go through a chapter book with me, like, you know, 1 and 2 chapters a night, and kind of keep a storyline in her memory, then maybe, you know, a little bit more complicated movies to the full 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Some of those movies are.
Yeah. This one is one that should all be put on every parent's a wish list or list that they introduce their kids to. And
required viewing.
It's a required viewing. So if you have not seen this, you should watch this. And it's funny, neither one of my sons or my wife had seen this, and I never really got into the anime with my younger or my sons when they were younger. It was always the Batman, you know, all the superhero type stuff. But
American animation is so different,
and it is, and this video is just, you know, like I saw it a while ago, you know, when my boys were younger, so you know they're in their teens now. So I saw it when they were really young, but I just never clicked with me that, hey, maybe these are kids' movies too. But I watched it this summer. It was like a random thing. My wife was working, And, you know, my daughters and I was like, hey, let's watch something different, something you've never seen before. And I put it on. They fell in love with it. They are obsessed with this. And so when this came out to actually play for the 30th anniversary in the theater, I was like, okay, we got to get tickets. I bought them. Where
did you go?
They played it out at Celebration North.
Okay, so a pretty good sized theater then. I was wondering, it's like in Zealand? That's insane.
No, it was definitely not in Zealand at all. And you know, the nice thing about this, right, is we went out there an hour early. We got popcorn. We sat down and watched it. And in my family, it's kind of known that Tanners have a hard time keeping their mouth shut during movies. We just do. We are not the quiet few in here,
You're
right?
Not the quiet folk.
No, we're not. And my wife hates it. It drives her nuts.
That would drive me nuts too.
So we're sitting here watching the movie, and you know, at the beginning you don't see Totoro or anything like that, right? And then all of a sudden it comes up, and my daughter, my 7-year-old, she knows when this is going to happen. And she's like tapping my wife because my wife's never seen this. She's like tapping my wife, going,
a tapper.
Hey,
watch this.
Hey,
watch this.
Hey,
watch this.
Just
part.
wait. Yep. Exactly.
Oh, man.
And then all of a sudden she goes, hey, it's Totoro. And then she's loud whispering, going, hey, it's Totoro. Hey, it's Totoro. Hey, she like keeps repeating this. And I'm sitting here feeling really bad for all these other people in the movie theater. Because, you know, it's like people cosplaying, all sorts of crazy shit. And, you know, my daughter, and I finally was like, Nora, she can see it's Totoro. I know you're excited, honey. I know you're very excited, but you need to calm down. Let's just watch the movie.
Bring it down a notch, kitty.
Yeah, and she just, you know, because Totoro is so quiet and mysterious, and like they have this thing called Cat Bus, and it's literally a cat bus that opens a random door and you get into it. And my wife goes, you know, that looks really creepy, right? And I was like, yeah, it's the late 80s. It's Japanese culture. I don't know what to say.
I saw someone who made, like, you remember the dog van in Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
Someone made a cat bus, and it is just as creepy as you would imagine it in real life.
Yeah. But speaking of superhero movies, you know, we've spent a lot of time talking, you know, about politics and different things. But, you know, I just don't understand why Bane was awful, played by Tom Hardy. It makes no sense, Anna.
I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the audio. I didn't like it. It was work. He was like he was trying too hard the whole time through it. Like it didn't seem like it was organic. So like one of the things that made Ra's al Ghul like cheesy in the Batman Begins was that it was just like he was like, I know all the things and I'm tricking everyone and I'm smarter than everyone and you're like he was like he like that arrogance that comes with that supervillain, and like it just made him cheap. With Heath Ledger, I did not see Heath Ledger as much. I mean, you still it's somewhat in your head, but like he was so immersed and so real in that character. And like Bane, I get it, but like I along with a lot of people, I could not get through the voice. The voice was just ridiculous to me. But like how do you think he talks through a mask that injects substance into his body? It makes more sense than, have you ever seen either the comic book or the kids animated show? Have you ever seen either of those? Well, the comic books and the animated show, the comic books doesn't have it, so that's the voice in your head. But in all cases, when you put something over your mouth, you have echoes, but it's not a higher pitch when it comes out. It'd be a lower pitch.
But maybe it's the venom that's changing that. Maybe it's not. Because think of it this way. In the books, they have it like injected into his arms. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's like IVs.
It was directly, like you could see the pack on the back of his neck and like into his veins, and like when he was like just totally roiding out, like you could see like the veins in his neck was crazy. I mean the whole thing was, you know, it was a different concept. Nolan took the concept to a different place, and I mean, it's just one thing. I know that increasing the volume of his voice did not increase the, I guess the dangerousness or like the
menace.
Yeah, they didn't increase any menace. It didn't, but even then, it was just like even the dialogue though. On top of that, like it's just.
I'm going to disagree with you all over the place on this one.
He was too philosophizing for me. I don't know what to tell you. It's just my
because you feel Tom Hardy was a bad Bane. Now you think that he's going to be a bad Spider-Man or a bad Venom. You just think that, hey, it's going to translate over. Are you sure your bias is just not getting in the way? Are you sure he's just not biased against superhero movies?
No, I thoroughly enjoy superhero movies. We'll see. I don't think that I'll be able to thoroughly enjoy Tom Hardy. I mean, I may be wrong, but I don't think I'll be able to thoroughly enjoy Tom Hardy as Venom. I would love to be proven wrong on that, and we'll see. Maybe we can do a review when both of us get a chance to see it.
I don't know. I think you're crazy, and for me, growing up as a kid, the Venom character was huge for me.
Yeah, he was awesome. Venom Spider-Man was awesome.
He's not Spider-Man. He was not.
I know.
Okay,
I know.
So I just want to make sure, we're going to distinguish.
I know.
We're going to nerd out a minute and distinguish the difference here.
Yeah, but Venom Spider-Man was awesome. I thought
But he's not Venom. Why do you say Venom Spider-Man? Why do you say it like that? Are you trying to put the two together? It's not like they're not like
they were
a mashup.
They were.
No,
they were at one point.
They were not. There's
the symbiote.
The symbiote was yes,
yeah,
but not Venom.
I know, but it's semantics at that point. Like, what was the symbiote? He turns into Venom because it's Tom Hardy.
Yes, it's a different personality. It acts different based on the person.
Okay. Yeah, it's like an impulse thing or whatever. I called the symbiote Venom. I just whatever, but yeah, no, like the Venom arc in Spider-Man was a good one, and the Carnage one was interesting, kind of like a more violent, rage-induced version of the symbiote, which both of them were cool. I'm curious to see if they'll be able to pull it off. I'm suspicious of it. When I saw the videos, like it was the it was like it was so computer generated. It was weird, like the sheen. It was too shiny. It was weird. It looked like, I was like, why is Venom wet? Like, why is it all? And so like I don't know.
Are they just trying to make the symbiote move on him so they try and make it look alive? Is that why? I mean, maybe that's why.
I don't know if like the organic nature of like a wet symbiote, but like but the one thing I will say is it does seem to have some of the iconic humor, like the sarcasm. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm suspicious of it, and I've been suspicious of movies that I'm proven wrong before. Yeah.
You do remember the Spider-Man. I can't remember if it was God. I don't know. I don't even know how to categorize them because some of them were so awful. But the one Spider-Man where what's the dude from the '70s show? Can't remember his name. Eric from '70s show. Yeah, Topher. Isn't that awful? I don't know that guy's name. But he played Venom way back in the day, and it was awful. You just look at him, and you're like, no, not Venom. Doesn't fit. Like, that one doesn't fit. That one I'll agree with you on.
Yeah, I just, like, I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. Because, I mean, I will say that Tom Hardy's a better actor. But like one of the things I really like, one of the problems I think with like superhero characters is when you put a famous known face into it. Like, I really love it when you see someone that like a breakout role in that character, and that character can you know what I mean, like it can kind of be defined by that. And so, like, you'll have someone come in, you have someone come in at Tom Hardy, but it would be someone else playing Eddie Brock, and then they turn into Venom. This is a new character who's a breakout character. You know what I mean? Like, I like origin stories with an origin actor. And so, like, it leaves all of the Hollywood behind, and it's how good is the actor and how good is the story arc. And it's like not a Brad Pitt acting as Venom, and not Tom Hardy acting as, whatever. It just, like, I just always see that kind of moves me away from it. I think it just might be just like suspension. I have a hard time suspending my belief a lot nowadays when I'm like overanalyzing movies. Like when I was a kid, it would just be like, oh, that's just a guy playing whatever. So I don't know if I just ignorance is bliss. Maybe when you're watching Marvel, sometimes it's like
they're superhero movies, for Christ's sake.
I know that's why I don't watch that many of them, because I
but
just sit over here.
You just said,
I
love them.
Well, I do, like when they're good. when I think they're really good. Like I was surprised by the Infinity War. I did not think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. I thought it was like there's going to be way too many people, way too many characters. It's just going to be a giant unwieldy mess. And they actually tied it together pretty good so that it had like forward motion as opposed to just a bee's nest of characters flying around. So like I was surprised on that one. I thought I was going to think that was dumb. So we'll see if the second half is any good. See if the burnt gauntlet can be restored and Infinity Stones be interesting on round 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I don't know, the interesting side of it, right, is how they're going to entertain all the missing people, right? Like they all of a sudden had all these things pop up, right? And then these people start going missing. If you haven't seen Infinity Wars, whatever,
Yeah,
no
it's too late now.
alert.
Spoiler alert, whatever. Well, it's he killed, like with that middle finger click of the gauntlet, he killed half the universe. Like that was the whole point of the entire Thanos thing, is he would with his army go to a planet and he would kill. That's how he got Zara's family or whatever. It's like he just half the people in the city to this side, half the people on this side, kill half those people. Like that was his whole thing. And he's like, well, this takes too long. It's like the Nazis were like, it's taking too long to shoot them. We need something more efficient. And then create more and more horrible things. And I guess the most horrific form of genocide is just an indiscriminate killing of half of the people in the universe with 5 of these elemental stones. And once he had that done, I guess he was like, I'm going to go farm on a random island or a random planet somewhere. I get it, but like I just, the philosophy is pretty flawed. Like I would think the universe itself would have enough resources to support the amount of life on the universe, considering there can't possibly be people on every single planet using up every single resource. So, yes, Thanos is a butthead.
Yeah. And that's kind of the funny theology, I think, behind some of that. And it's a superhero thing. I don't know if I could. Yeah, I don't know if I could forgive you though for the whole anti-Batman rant you just went on though. I think it's like,
I don't know.
It's SmackDown time. And in those movies, those 3 specific ones,
yeah,
are just my absolute favorite movies. Like I think do we do that on the show?
Those are the 3 best Batmans. I will, without a doubt, put. Even though I did not like Dark Knight Rises as much as I did The Dark Knight, I will put even Batman Begins, like the Nolan trilogy, the Nolan triarch, whatever people like to call it, is better than any of the previous, including Adam West's campy slapping, punching sand bad guys or whatever. They used to turn people into little vials of colored sand all the time. Anyways, yeah, no, the Nolan story arc is the best. I have not yet seen any Batfleck. Not one. I haven't seen any Batfleck. So I'm assuming I'm not missing out there. But I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Did you like Batfleck?
No.
Yeah,
nope,
so
I'm guessing, I had a really hard time with that. I'll be honest. Like, they had the whole Justice League, and now we're tangenting here, but I was chastising you for your anti-Batman stuff, but the whole Justice League, thing, I have a hard time with him as Batman. I just do. I don't see. I get it. It's a dream of his. Remember back in the day, and this has got to be Jay and Silent Bob,
Okay.
And they talk about this to some extent, right? Like this is a conversation that, and Ben Affleck's this huge thing, and here he becomes Batman, and you're like, no, that was a joke. Nobody should have made that guy Batman. He is not deserving of it, not at all. Sorry. Like, yeah,
so I would say, like, even though Dark Knight Rises and Tom Hardy's Bane I did not like. They're all of the characters, all of the storytelling in all 3 of those stories is still head and shoulders above any of the other Batman entries so far. So I mean, and the Justice League stuff, Bat Iron Man and or whatever it is when he fought Superman. I haven't seen it. It looked ridiculous. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check those out, and we'll get back in the future to a Venom screening review and my screeches of pain and terror when I watch two Justice or DC Comics movies.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll watch them online together. Who knows? Either which way, you're still wrong about Bane. I'm Batman. Anyway, so enough of this superhero talk tonight, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny because we could talk about a lot of things, right? We really could. You know, for example, we could talk about Trump mocking Dr. Ford. We could do that. I don't. It's not any. This shouldn't be news to anybody. You know, Trump mocks sexual assault victim. Sounds familiar. Sounds like something he's done before. We could talk about that.
Or female reporters, or any other horrible things he's been doing lately.
Yeah. Or the female reporter he says should basically stop talking and she should know her place. I mean, for Christ's sake, this is nothing new. Or how about this? We could talk about Trump and his millions of insider cash and his
money from daddy.
Yeah, his lie about the $1 million loan, which is, I believe, actually $40 million. But I mean, he's good at numbers. Don't worry how good at numbers. Or if you want, we could go even farther, right? And we could talk about the FBI investigation that basically, Brett, cover your mouth. You're screaming too much, and I don't want to hear you talk in case I have to run for office later and you accuse me of something I don't remember not doing and doing at the same time. Kavanaugh, we could talk about him if we wanted to.
That's a really long, very specific nickname.
That is. He got that. I mean, it was like one of those, it was one of those posts inside of his, his little high school journal, right? I mean, he has a calendar. Yeah. For Christ's sake, the guy has a calendar that he somehow was able to replicate from the 80s.
It looks like he wrote it on crayon, too. It looks like such a child. Hey, we could talk about him.
We could. It's funnier, though, if we spend a few minutes talking about Cardi B, right? And if you don't know who Cardi B is, I know you don't like hip-hop, and I know you think a lot of hip-hop is just mumble rap because you're you're musicist, and you just don't understand it.
Her stuff isn't so much mumble; it's the low beats per minute. It bugs me. I'm waiting for the words to speed up and like to hear the technique and the ability, and I'm always just like waiting for Cardi to like speed up and show me her skills. Like she can rhyme pretty good, but it's kind of like slam poetry or like recitation. But either
that's
way,
good, though. For her, that's good. Anyway, we could talk about her. And how she supposedly orchestrated assault on a stripper at a strip club about a feud of this stripper cheating on her husband or cheating on her with her husband, and then getting released and immediately going home, getting a gray bathrobe and Versace pink slippers and going shopping with her husband 2 hours later.
That's
bonkers.
I don't know words for that. That's insane. I guess that's what money can do.
Exactly. It's what money can do, I guess. I don't know. We could talk about all those things, right? Because those, at least the last one would be comical. The other ones would just be like a typical Salad or Skeptic show. But I thought it would be a change to vary the topics away from the Trumpster, or we can call him the dumpster, whatever you want to call him. The Trump dumpster, the dump Trumpster. Dump Trump, the dump Trumpster. I don't know how you would make out a rhythm for that.
Just go look up an Eminem rhyme. That'll be way better at rhyming Donald Trumpster. And anything that we can do.
Exactly. We could talk about all those things, but I thought instead let's talk about Amazon raising wages. And this story is a little important for a huge myriad facet of different reasons, right? Yeah. One of the facets, is the fact that, who's the main individual that called out, him?
Lately,
Jeff Bozo. Bozo the clown. I call him Jeff the Bozo clown. I think that's what his name is, right? Jeff Bozo clown, Bozo Jeff clown. I don't know. See, I'm just full of synonyms and rhymes and things
I
tonight.
don't know what you're doing. I have no idea.
Anyway, so
Bernie Sanders called him out, and we were talking a little bit earlier before the show started. It's like this to me is like Bernie Sanders sticking to his guns, right? Like Washington Post is like pro-progressive rag. It's kind of like CNN's version on the newspaper, but it does some pretty good stuff with its sources and everything, a little bit better sometimes than CNN does with their appeals to emotion and a lot of that kind of entertainment value. But like they support Bernie and a lot of his progressive stances. And Bernie could be like, I don't want to attack Washington Post too much, Jeff Bezos and everything. They give me a lot of support. They help me out. Good story. And Bernie was like, no. Bezos, pay your employees. They can't take piss breaks, and they're basically fully living on Walmart level wages and going straight into the SNAP food programs and all that because you're not paying them anything. Like he just goes straight up and calls them out, even though that could potentially take away some support from the Washington Post that he gets. Like it's just Bernie sticking to his principles.
Yeah, and for Christ's sake. He created a bill called Stop Bezo, or however you say the guy's name, Bozo. Stop Bozo Act. I'm just going to call him Bozo because I like calling people Bozo.
That's fine.
But he literally created a bill that he introduced called Stop Bozo Act. That's insane. That's great. I mean, he named it after this guy. It's almost like Bernie's like, hey, fuck it. I'm 70 now, right? I'm 70.
74, I think.
I'm at the point where, I'm trying to make a difference. Y'all don't want to listen. Guess what, folks? We're here. I'm here, and I'm going to yell at y'all until I'm dead. Even if I have to wave my finger at you, or if a bird lands on me, I'm still going to yell at you until I die. That'll be
what's on his headstone. That'll be what's on his headstone. It'll just be a finger wagging back and forth like one of those cats at a Chinese food restaurant or something. Oh, man. Well, what really, in the end, though, like the whole idea of this is like Bernie's willing to call out anyone for the principle of it. And that's awesome. And, it's got to be conflictory for Trump because he hates Bezos. He hates everything Bezos does, even though it's recently been shown that Amazon has donated more money to Republican primary and campaigns than it has to progressive ones, which shows you that Amazon and Bezos themselves support the idea of deregulating the economic model and neutering essentially the U.S. government when it comes to the economic system. But they also push the progressive arc because look at it brings in the young people and the populace in that way. So they're playing both sides. Amazon is so big they can play both sides of this, and they've been able to snake through. And so now what we've got is Amazon getting pushed in, and it's really nice to see them moving. And they're pushing up to $15 an hour, which is a massive boost for 350,000 employees.
Yeah. Another one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this tonight, and maybe this is the first reveal. I can't remember if we've had this conversation. Technically, I work for a 3PL who used to service a very large furniture manufacturing company. We'd been servicing Steelcase for over 15 years this year. The owners of our company worked at Steelcase and had been there for a long time before they started their own company, right? So we have some ties to Steelcase. Well, they canceled our contract this year. Basically told us, hey, guess what? We no longer need your services. Oh, and you can't place all your employees, therefore we're going to hire them all. Well, our contract with them literally says you cannot hire or approach or try and steal any of our employees for 180 days from termination of our contract. It's in there. It's written in there. Steelcase has more money than us. And usually I don't talk a lot about my work, but this has been something that, so when we talk about why I've been, more angry lately, why things come out all the time and why sometimes, I may seems more stressed out or keep talking about work, it's because we were working on solutions to try and help place all our employees, and we were working through this because this was a huge surprise to us, especially because they just renewed our contract a year and a half ago and extended it. And we were the first part of the organization in Steelcase, in the America sector, that saved Steelcase. We hit our cost savings goal for the full year in 5 months. Only plant to do that. And they want to come in and take it over. So fine, whatever. You can get over the shock. You can get over this. The funny thing is, right by 3 steel case plants in Michigan. Amazon is building this huge facility. And everybody was worried about wages. It was a big thing. Last year when this was announced, everybody was upset. And especially in manufacturing, because none of us and nobody in any of these departments and any of these plants had a say in what happened. Guess what land Amazon is leasing? Steelcase owned land. Steelcase owns this land, is leasing it to Amazon to build a 1 million square foot facility, package facility right here in Michigan, which is great, to some extent for the economy, right? It's more jobs. And that's never a bad thing. And competition is not a bad thing. But, at first everybody was freaking out. Then it kind of went down this sliding scale, and people stopped freaking out because they're like, well, Amazon doesn't pay good wages. Amazon is a slave driver. We literally had to have discussions in upper management about what are we going to do, if they hire our employees away? How can we move our employees to a better wage? Because if Amazon walks in and offers them $1 more an hour, people are just going to walk out and leave. They're going to do that. And for your average material handler, working at Amazon maybe a little bit more profitable than working for us, a 3PL, or even for a Steelcase. But then everybody
it will be when they get to 15. Yeah, it will be.
Everybody stopped worrying though, because Amazon wasn't, there was some releases that happened, at either the beginning of this year or end of last year, where basically it came out exactly what Amazon pays lower end people, what they do to middle management. Like, there's certain supervisor manager levels that they hire for a 3-year contract. You do make a lot of money. You can make like 80, 90 grand, working as a mid-level manager there, but you have a contract, and then what happens is when your contract's over, if Amazon doesn't want to renew you or whatever, they don't have to. They could tell you that they don't like you to your face and not renew your contract. You're out, a job. You're done. It's over. Capuzzo. Yep. So they do that as a way to rotate management to keep fresh ideas in, right? I don't like the idea, but it's capitalism at work.
Well, it's strange because a lot of times in the market, like the idea of high turnover rate was always considered a bad thing. And it's weird to see Amazon actually utilizing that as either a way to keep wages down, because it's kind of like the idea of term limits on senators and stuff like that. It's just like when you rotate people in, like you get fresh new ideas, which is awesome, but you also lose expertise and valuable things like that too. So there's a lot of pros and cons to having short-term contract workforces. So I'm surprised Amazon's doing that. It just seems like that would be.
They only do it for certain management fields and different things like that, and it's a way to drive competition. It's a way to drive, people to work harder, to recruit better, yada, yada, yada. So people stop worrying about Amazon coming in and taking, all our temps and everything like that, or people leaving. And then today or yesterday, it was announced, Amazon's not going to raise everybody to $15 an hour.
Yeah. So
and
now
there's
like going to be a worry about that.
Yep. So I happened to be over there, because my company put me on a new assignment. So I'm working other departments and everything like that right now. I'm not even at that facility, and I have to go back there to consult a little bit. And I'm over there, and I asked the question. I just asked the new lady that was going to take over, basically Stephen, my co-manager in my job. And no, it's not like a Dwight and it's not like that thing. Well, anyway, let's not go down that road. But I asked, and she was like, yeah, it's actually really concerning seeing this. And then the other guy that's going to be taking over, he's like, yeah, I don't understand why this has to come at this time. It always seems like somebody wants just to screw us Republican capitalists. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God. And I'm like, where do you get your news from? And he's like, well, didn't you read that, the article in Fox News? So I was like, all right, send it to me. Send me the article that you read. I need to understand why you're upset by this. And the article is, he literally must have gotten an alert and not read the article. Not that the article's good, but he probably didn't even read the article. He just read the headline where it says, ignore Amazon's self-serving calls to raise the federal minimum wage. And I was like, that's the article that you're hanging your hat on? You're upset that Amazon raised the minimum wage? And he's like, well, yeah, because, we got employees here that don't make $15 an hour, and they're going to want to leave. And we just hired them away from, your company because you let us hire them away, and now we're gonna have to pay them more than $15 an hour. I was like, yeah, that's kind of part of capitalism, isn't it? Isn't it how technically it works, right?
That is the essence of capitalism, is that nobody's regulating everything, is that whoever's going to pay the best is where everybody goes to make the most money. That's the whole point of capitalism, is competition and dog eat dog, and the big dog wins all the spoils. Like, I don't understand. What would he prefer? Would he prefer that there's like, no, you can't raise the wages? Well, that's kind of an exemplifying note that the Republicans don't want a free market. They just want to race to the bottom where the few can maintain what they have. And it's just it always surprises me when you see these topsy-turvy things when it's an actual free market thing and Republicans freak out about that because that allows people to move up and down on the social scale.
Yeah. So in the article, and this is the thing he pointed out, he's like, well, technically there's studies that show that raising minimum wage reduces job hours and jobs that are actually becoming part of our society for entry-level workers. And I'm sitting here going, okay. And the article says this. It says annual earnings fall by an average of $1,500. So let's do some math a minute. It's going to take me a few seconds. I got to pull my calculator out. $1,500 divided by 52 weeks is $28 a week. So divide that by 40 hours. That's 72 cents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying employees are losing 72 cents an hour. Yep, 72 cents an hour at that wage, right? So, okay, so that sounds pretty credible. That sounds, holy crap, what it is. But think about it this way. If an employee is making, let's just say $13 an hour, and if they're going to lose 72 cents, if you think about it, they make $13 an hour times 1.5 is $19.50 an hour for overtime. So if they're working, let's say 10 hours of overtime a week at $19.50 an hour, that's $200 a week times 52. That's about $10,000 a year in overtime. Now they're going to lose $1,500.
Okay,
we'll subtract that. That's $8,600. So they're losing $1,500, right? Divided by 19.5 is $443 minus the 10 hours. Oh, wait. They can work 6 hours less a week and make more money. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Yeah, they lose money because they're working less, but they're home more, right? Their take home is higher. And they have to work not as hard to make a little bit less. That doesn't sound like a problem to me. It sounds like somebody doesn't understand how to do math in the long run of things. And that this study, and I don't, it's one study. It's literally one study by some university named Evans. And I've never heard of this university ever in my whole life. And this one study is what they use and hold up on Fox News. And this is what I was trying to explain to this guy. Is like, you're referencing one study from a crazy resource, but because some national news organization stated they make less. I was like, Steve, look, dude, when we raised wages this year, we didn't do it to $15 an hour, but we raised wages. Did anybody get less overtime? No. Well, then doesn't that refute your study right there? I mean, at least in our organization, it refutes your study. I'm sorry.
Well, all I pretty much had to say on this one is that when we talk about the wage increases and everything, like most people are going piece by piece. So this jump by Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos for Amazon, this is a big jump. He said this isn't incremental. And one of the things that almost all economists will say, and they will strike down anything that I found it's at the Evans School of Public and Policy Governance from Washington University. So this is basically like a small school inside of Washington University or University of Washington. Sorry. Anyways, the studies and things that people find on there, these are statistical studies that are taking a look at a pretty specific thing of something that's going on in economy. Well, economists on average will tell you that it is unhealthy for the middle class to see stagnant wages that don't keep up with inflation. And on top of that, we're seeing tax decreases from the Republicans that are starving the government for all of their fundings, and they're also causing difficulties when it comes to health care because we're removing healthy people from the health care because you're allowed to not have health care now. Before, we had the mandate that forced a bunch of healthy people into the system, which over the long run would have reduced some of the healthcare costs. And then obviously the free market that allows monopolies in healthcare to drive up costs and wages and or cost of healthcare and all that. All of these things all mixing together which increase the cost of living. Excuse me, and not having wage increases. So everything costs more, but we're not making as much money that even keeps up with inflation. So if you make exactly what you made last year, no increase, you lived a good life last year, you're living a good life maybe this year too, but you're making you're able to buy 2% less because your dollar is worth 2% less because of the 2% to 3% inflation, which is where the Fed, the central bank, wants to keep it. But the whole point is that your wages need to at least match that to have the same buying power and the same dollar value that you had. So these increases need to happen incrementally, and they don't happen. And so everybody can freak out about huge jumps. And what market does when there's a huge jump is it swings, it reacts. Like whenever Donald Trump talks about a business and Wall Street freaks out. Like those are unnatural things. But the long-term, steady, smooth move of the economy requires slow incremental growth. And Amazon's boost, this is a big deal, and hopefully it'll push the entire economy kind of sort of start raising wages because you need to be competitive, especially for the fall labor. Like your companies, and we're just talking about it, it's like, man, we kind of need to raise our wages to be competitive. Now that Amazon is taking the lead on this, yeah, that's good. We're going to see possible wage increases for some of the lowest wage and hardest working jobs out there. I mean, this is the net benefit. And I love how, people that want to say this is dangerous, this is scary, and this will hurt small businesses. Maybe it might hurt small businesses. But if we got some of, like myself, if my small business got some of the $3 trillion that were just added to the tax rebate and added to the $2 trillion that were added to the tax reform from last year, that's $5 trillion that have been cut. On average, I think it's for over a decade of government funding, and that money's not coming back to me. I haven't seen any payroll tax cuts. I haven't seen. The only thing I get a tax break on is profit. Well, if you run a lean company that basically makes as much as you put out, so if you increase your cost and you make more at the end of the year, and you grow as much as you spend more every year, you don't see a whole lot of profit. So you're not seeing a reduction there. So I haven't seen any tax breaks in my small business. And like the little guy, yeah, we're going to be strapped for cash, but I would love to have some of these giant tax breaks that the big guys are getting, but I'm not getting any of those. So which Republican policy is helping the little guy that Fox News thing is saying is making it harder and harder for us to deal with the increases in wages?
Yeah,
well, I'm not getting any help.
Exactly. And look at it this way. They have over 575,000 employees. There's a financial disclosure which Bernie pointed out and said, the company is showing a median wage of $28,000, meaning half its employees made less than that, right? So I did the math, right? Let's just say a $2 increase. I'm just going to throw that out there and say it's a $2 increase to put everybody at that $15 level for half its employees. Guess how much for a full year, minus payroll tax and all this other garbage.
So gross pay.
Just gross pay. Guess how much money for 1 year that is?
Maybe a couple $1 million.
It's more than that. $1.2 trillion or $1 billion, right?
Amazon would have to pay $1.2 billion more to those 300. Or no, you're saying half of those people.
That's half of it.
Half of the 500, so 250,000-ish people.
If you raise everybody $2 an hour, you'd be paying about $1.2 billion out. Now, what was their capitalist market? What did they make? What did they gross? $1 trillion. $1 trillion. That's 1.2%.
That's the value. That's the value that they had. I don't know what their
Yes.
income statement was for last year.
And their COO or the CEO is worth $165 billion. So he could do this. He could literally do this for almost 100 years and still have money left over to live. That's what he could do. And that's just his personal pocket. Even if we take away what the company makes, if he paid it out of his personal effing pocket, he literally could sustain this for over 50 years out of his personal pocket, this increase every year. So now, anybody that wants to say how this hurts the economy, it doesn't. It hurts those companies that are making trillions of dollars, that are getting the tax breaks you don't see as a small business, that I don't see in our small business. The steel cases of the world can come in and cut small businesses out because once they figure out the processes and how to do these things, they can pay the penalties and take over. It's the same in your world. If somebody could figure out how to steal all the knowledge in your brain and your machines, they would do it. They would do that, and then you'd be out of job. Your wife, your kids, your father, your mother, you would all lose everything that you had.
That's the whole point of the antitrust laws, the stopping monopolies, is basically that if you have more money, you can essentially just drown out, destroy your competition. That is anti-capitalistic, but it is the natural tendency and the natural direction that capitalism typically goes. Noam Chomsky talks about it in his 1970 speech in I think it's in Madison Square Gardens, I think it is, and he basically talks about a corporate state, and what a corporate state typically ends up doing is through its economic model, through capitalism, essentially it turns to aggregate wealth and power into the hands of a few, eventually leading to a legitimate oligarchy or plutocracy, and sometimes amassing into what would be kind of like a board, which would be what China has as its board of directors, essentially. Or even if it gets crazy enough, it could turn into something like what Russia has, with a single dictatorial economic powerhouse leader guy, which kind of mutates into, we could see that happening, tendencies for that in the United States with the growth and the power of the president. Which initially the term president was considered to be an insult by the founding fathers, because all he does is preside over the over the executive branch. He wasn't even given Madison wanted to call him a king, and Jefferson wanted to call him, I think it was a public servant, and they decided on president. And that term has been turned into an authoritative position, and it's been given pride and power and all that kind of stuff. And now that term is used as the leader of countries all over the world. All these types of things are just the natural progression of pure unfettered capitalism, is to aggregate wealth into a few wealth and power into a few localized systems and regions and even single people. And the Amazon is a good example of that. When we have our global economy that we have now, we have a hard time regulating something like that. And so it's nice to kind of see them being forced into doing something a little more altruistic, a little bit better for the people. But the other thing is that what you talked about with the wage increase is with Amazon, they're doing this and they're possibly going to chase away what is a pretty thin labor market and steal from a bunch of other people. This could benefit them in this upcoming season, and it makes them look better. It helps them in the off season. And I mean, in that negative, they're getting all kinds of positive press. And they're gaining more power, more wealth. They could be drowning out more companies because they don't have any of the seasonal help in the fall for retail. Everything about this is a smart decision. Just like Nike doing what they did with Colin Kaepernick. Like the people at The Economist at Amazon know what they're doing, and by submitting to Bernie and all of his call-outs, may have actually made them more powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's a topic for another day. There's an article from The Wire that I read, and they're not against them. They're just making sure we understand that they're going to benefit from this. There's a discussion about where they're going to put their second, corporate facility, right, which has all the big wigs in, and do they get a lucrative tax discount and all these other things. And I don't disagree that those are problematic. They create heartache. They're helping to continue to widen the gap between rich and poor. The problem is that if you aren't in that lower class, if you aren't in that, how do you get them to understand that, hey, let's stop raising minimum wage until we can get companies to do this ethically? No, we need to take care of this bottom end and then fix our economic system so that we don't have politicians and corporations creating these nonsense laws that give them tax breaks and all this other garbage and actually go after them for that. And you know how you can do that?
Of power.
You can help raise, voting, right? And you know how you can get more people voting? You can get people off the bottom floor. You can get people to say, hey, look, somebody cares. And will it help tomorrow? No. But I can tell you what. The person that can make $7.25 an hour at McDonald's but can walk to Amazon and make $15 an hour, that'll change their life. And if it can help change their life, then they can start choosing to be part of our democratic system here and start voting against some of these super intrusive policies that large capitalistic corporations have instilled in us for years.
I would love to see what Amazon does when employees don't show up on voting day because they were voting. I bet you there's a detriment to that, like where they were actively fight against you taking off voting Tuesdays. I bet you that company does that. I've heard about what they do about sick days and stuff, and how they require their 2-day delivery in all their Amazon locations. Like I bet you there is an unwritten policy somewhere in there where if you take your time off for voting, that you'll get penalized for it. I'd love to hear something about that.
Yeah, you could be right. And hopefully that's the next thing Bernie rallies against.
Yeah, maybe.
So as we leave this segment, I want to leave you with Bernie's words to Jeff the Bozo Clown from Amazon.
It is no secret that I have been a harsh critic of the wage and employment practices of Amazon and its owner, Jeff Bezos. It has been my view that the middle class and working families of this country should not have to subsidize Mr. Bezos, the wealthiest person on earth, because the wages he has paid his employees are so low that many of them are forced to go on food stamps, Medicaid, and subsidized housing and other governmental programs. Today, I want to give credit where credit is due. And I want to congratulate Mr. Bezos for doing exactly the right thing. Mr. Bezos has indicated his support for raising the national minimum wage. And as someone who has introduced a $15 an hour federal minimum wage, I very much look forward to working with him in this area. Let me take this opportunity to thank the many hundreds of Amazon workers who contacted our office talking about the wages and working conditions that they were employed under. Mr. Bezos and Amazon are now leading the way, but there is absolutely now no reason why other profitable corporations like Walmart, like the fast food industry, like retail in general, and other employees, no reason now why they also should not be paying their employees at least $15 an hour. Bottom line is that in the richest country in the history of the world, we are seeing massive levels of income and wealth inequality. That in this country, our standard should be that if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty.
Thank you, Mr. Bernie. Thank you for that. And I don't know how else to say it. You're right. We should not have people living in poverty. With that being said, though, we have a new segment that we like to talk about called Quicksave. And I don't have like intro music or anything like that. But Hannah, explain really quickly to everybody listening what our second Quicksave is about.
So what we basically wanted to bring in just something that's really interesting that you really wanted to quickly save. You were flipping through your internets, you were diving through the interwebs, and you found something cool. You saw something you wanted to save. Just slap it on, like browsing Reddit. Just save this post. You want to take a look at it later. You want to save it. You don't want to miss it and lose it in the infinite down scrolling of going through your feed. And so I just wanted to just pick something lighthearted and something fun. I know the show has been kind of a little bit lighter this episode than typically, but I mean, I just wanted to have something that would maybe could take us out on a nice, warm-hearted note. And so, what are you bringing along on this one here?
So this week, Hannah, the quick save I found, and I actually saved it this time. Like, I didn't just like find one that this is what I thought like I did last week. This one I actually did save, and it was kind of funny. It was yesterday. I was at work, and we're implementing a new WMS system and all these other fancy, crappy jargon things you talk about in distribution, right? And I'm implementing this, and I was waiting for this, my coworker, and he was uploading something, and I was in the back end of the server, and I have to reset a couple of different areas as we upload new products. And I'm sitting there waiting for him, and so I'm on my phone, and I got my Reddit going, and all of a sudden I go, wait, hold on. In the science forum, this one says, Goblin World found orbiting at the edge of the solar system. Save. Thank you very much. Like, not even that I care as much about what it was, though we'll talk about it, and it was actually really interesting. But I just could not honestly believe that an article from the Nature Institute or International Journal of Science had a headline that was as catchy as, some of these Fox News and CNN headlines are. Like, why is it called Goblin? I don't even know. From the article, I didn't even get that out of it. But I thought it was a really interesting read.
They said the reason they called it Goblins because it was found on Halloween.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, it's fun. They haven't given a name. Well, I mean, its name is like TG 150 something.
It's TG 387.
Yeah.
2015 TG 387. We would have to have Dan Batchelor back on to talk about how they would name this. Because I don't understand why you would. I assume it was discovered 2015. That's my assumption.
No, they discovered it this year. They just discovered it on Halloween. But I'm assuming is that they used the age-old scientific method of drawing a bunch of letters and numbers out of a hat. Because they used all of their style with that title of Goblin Planet. They used all of their charisma to try to entice you in with that clickbaity lead. And then they were like, screw it, we don't need to name this thing something interesting. We already got everybody coming in to check this out.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I thought it was interesting. And it was kind of funny because the Washington Post had an article later that day. And so I saved this, and then I was like, all right, this is my quick save for the week, right? And then I was, doing a little bit more research on it. And, because the article, in fairness, the article from Nature is really short. They talk about how this planet doesn't get any closer to the sun. And I think that's very interesting, right? That's an interesting tidbit. Why does it not get any closer? How far out is it?
It exists completely outside the Kuiper Belt, which is outside of all the big gaseous planets and everything. It's a long ways out there. And it takes 40,000 years for a single, Earth years for one revolution around the sun.
Yeah. And I thought that's what I thought was interesting. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool, and I was able to bring it up with my kids and be like, hey, by the way, look, there's this new planet. It's called Goblin. My kids are all excited because, hey, here it is, almost Halloween. And here we're now talking about a new planet. And my kids actually really like, the astronomy side of things, in fairness. Like, my daughter has a science shirt that has all the planets in orbit. That's one of her favorite shirts last year. So, we talk about, the astronomy thing more in the house, and maybe it's just because I like black holes, right? I don't know. Maybe it's because I want there to be a multiverse and time travel. I don't know. Maybe because I like Rick and Morty. But, anyway, it was just kind of funny because, we were able to talk through this and bring this up. And it's very interesting that, there's a whole nother planet out there that could hold life that we could go live in if we could ever figure out how to travel a lot faster without dying and not have to live in Trump world.
Yeah, maybe we could live on that planet. I wouldn't have too much of a problem with that at this moment. I would like an atmosphere. That would be nice. I'm assuming tiny dwarf planet that doesn't spend any time inside the Kuiper Belt might be cold and terrible for any human-like creatures, but we'll see. My quick save, I found this incredibly fun, kind of like the biggest practical joke you could possibly play on a group of people who probably really do need one. There's a thing called Secessio Plebis, and it's something from it's called the withdrawal of the commoners, or the secession of the plebes, which is another it's another word that people usually use for plebeian, or the basic everyday citizen. But they had this thing they did, and they started in 494 BC was the first one. And the entire city of like the basic folks, none of the upper class or the rulers were in on this, but everybody just got up and left the city. Everyone just quit for the whole day. They were just like, we're quitting. And they would leave the city, and they would leave all of the rich people who just took advantage of them and expected them to be their servants and their slaves and their workers and do all the work. And they had no people at the bottom to do anything. They were completely and utterly out of their ability. It's basically incentivize how much they rely on the average people. And obviously our society nowadays, with transportation and all the abilities that we have with machines and modern technology, it'd be harder to do this. But it would be so cool if like all of the minorities, all of the hard workers, all of the blue collar folk, all of the trash collectors, all of the phone operators, all the plebes in our society were just like, we're just going to go outside and sit down from 8 to 5 today and just watch society come to a complete and utter crash. And then maybe some of the people who lose $100 million on that day in a Wall Street meltdown would appreciate the people at the bottom that work for them. But they did this 5 times, and each time they did it, like, these people would be reminded, the leaders of society would be reminded how much they kind of need to bargain and make amends and increase everybody's quality of life. I just thought it was so cool that everybody would just be like, yeah, we're just going to go outside the city walls for the day.
Yeah, that's funny, and it's kind of funny when you said plebe. The first thing I thought of was Rick and Morty, right? Except for a plebe is not what they talk about in Rick and Morty. Is called a phlebe, which is a character / object that appeared in Interdimensional Cable number 2, and it's a living being that is used as a tool for making plumbuses, which have no use whatsoever. So it's a common tool. It's just funny because it's just literally funny because it's something, and I don't know if it was done on purpose, right? I highly doubt it wasn't. Huh?
It was probably a play on words of some kind.
Yes, it probably was. But in your case, you're sitting here saying, hey, what is a plebe? And when you Google plebe, there's actually a website called Total Plebe. It's ridiculous, whatever, But they define it as, a plebe is basically a commoner, somebody, that does an average task, right? Yeah. Well, in Rick and Morty, this phlebe does this common task to create plumbuses, which are super incredibly ridiculous. And if you look at our life, what do we have that we use every day that are just almost utter nonsense and ridiculousness? There's so many things. There's so many things. How many people have get rich quick schemes that they invent something literally weird, and then you're like, oh, yep, I'm going to buy that. That's amazing. I'm going to own 100 of those things, or I'm going to buy them for my whole family.
So anything that has the logo of "as seen on TV" on it, basically, is what you're saying.
It's a plea. There you go. We should change it and say, not seen or as seen on TV as a plebe.
Oh yeah, I thought that was such a cool thing. It's like basically a social upheaval. We quit. You guys go ahead and run this system and let us know how it goes. I don't know. I thought that would be really fun, and I don't know if it's possible in our society because of all the different ways we have to do things. But like I've just loved see like everybody in a city or a town or a state just rage quit and just be like, I quit. You guys figure it out. Like Cartman, screw you guys. I'm going home.
Exactly. And again, I'm going to bring it back to the whole Rick and Morty thing. A plumbus is an all-purpose home device that does nothing except for, here's their tagline: welcome to the exciting world of plumbus ownership. A plumbus will aid many things in your life, making life easier. With proper maintenance, handling, storage, and urging, your plumbus will provide you with a lifetime of better living and happiness. We don't know how, but it will. Right? So it's just the same thing.
Like,
and
sounds like a campaign slogan.
Exactly. And so if you think about it, I mean, and again, maybe this is just my crazy Rick and Morty, brain thinking here, but, we talk about, a plebe, we talk about, just being this essential cog in the wheel. Without the cogs in the wheel, you don't have, the larger wheel. You're not able to move the stone. You're not able to open the doors. You're not able to create all these other things. And, a lot of people want to complain about unions and all these other things. And I'm saying, well, you don't understand. What unions are saying is stop, value us, create a living. And guess what? If you paid people living wages, if you reduce the income level gap, and I guess I'm standing on a soapbox now, but if you reduce the gap between rich and poor people and have a very large middle class and a very small rich and poor people, we wouldn't have to be having these conversations about plebes. And it's honestly, in fairness to you, that's a great idea between, that this has existed throughout time for centuries and millennia, right? This is something this is happening. They
try it every once in a while. We had the immigrant walkout and the woman walkout last year, where they tried to get immigrants and people of color to just leave your jobs and show your bosses how important you are. They do it in a variety of things. This is the first time I've seen like a whole society of people just like, nope, we're gonna go home now.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So
and it's amazing. And I don't know. I would be highly supportive of this. And like. The best part would be and this is what should happen in my opinion, is that they should create there should be like a campaign where you can donate to, where you can know 100% of the funds are going to go to victims. And then there should be either fired or you get docked a day's amount of pay. Think about it in my industry. If somebody walks out and they don't have vacation time or sick time, they don't get paid for the day. They should be able to apply and say, hey, here's proof that I make, $13 an hour. This is what my wage would be after taxes. This is what I request in a day's pay. And that's what should happen. And if companies don't want to support this, I think a large social movement could do this. For somebody like me, I'm not going to apply. If I miss a day's worth of work and my company wants to dock me a day's worth of pay, yeah, that's going to suck for me. But it's a lot different than the person that's living paycheck to paycheck every single week.
The same thing when they got to vote and they can't go vote because they're afraid that they miss a paycheck, or if they get fired, their life is essentially on the streets.
Yep. And that's one of the things I've argued about in my company, and my company has taken care of people in some aspects. We had an employee who had a very, very young child die, and we took care of him for quite a while, in terms of making sure he had an income while he dealt with the grieving, with the family situation, with the funeral, with all of that. And, and
it shows that some corporations and some companies are at least, honor and loyal to employees, which is really nice to hear. I mean, I would love to see more corporations do stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, again, I guess we turned your quick save into a political soapbox.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Fuck you. That's what you get to do, I guess. But, I'm sorry, but in fairness to people out there, this is what you and this is what I think about, and it's weird because I go to work sometimes and people say something and I churn it on them. They're like, you're taking the fun out of it. And it's like, well, do you understand what you just said? Do you understand how you're harming, other generations? Do you understand how you're marginalizing the fact that these people on the floor are working really hard, And like I was out, I go out on the floor and work with people some days, and that's what people miss. Like I walk out on the floor. I'm implementing a new WMS system, and I'm walking on the floor, and my initial reaction is this guy's resisting. And when I was talking to him, he's like, "Well, if this reduces the amount of time it takes me to do all these things, does that mean you guys are going to cut my pay? Does this mean that you're going to reduce the amount of hours I work?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not. I'm going to find better things for you to do." Oh, okay. Well, so all it took was just a conversation with, the employee who's worried about what his income is going to be every week. And, we were talking, and he has a medical bill he has to pay off, which is disgusting that he should have to have this medical bill. And it's kind of funny because I was like, yeah, if it were up to me, we'd have universal health care. And he's like, oh, well, I vote that way too. I was like, well, good, thank you. Like, I do too, And we found a bond, and then all of a sudden he wanted to work more, and then we had the conversation. It's like, no, I'm gonna look. We're gonna look out for you. Our company's not implementing a new system to reduce your hours so we can pay you less. We're doing it so that we can become more productive and take on more work without taking on increased costs. I don't want to hire another person if I can not do that and pay you the same wage or a little bit more money and be more productive. And when you explain it that way, people are on board with it.
You should get a shirt that says, "Hi, my name is Chris, but my employees call me Maslow."
No, I'm not gonna.
Oh, come on! I mean, basically, what you're doing is you're working through, Maslow's hierarchy, getting the people what they need to motivate them to be better employees. This is good stuff, and it works through society and everything else. Like the whole idea of withdrawal of your abilities and what you do and you provide for society, to get people to realize, hey, we kind of need these people, and to create that communication. That's why the idea of the strength of unions is so important. Like, we haven't had a problem where we needed unions, and it's that, wage decreasing as opposed to stagnation would be a place where, I think we need to kind of get together. But when we talk about what, the government can do and what we've seen in different places, if someone decides to say, well, we don't like unions protesting and stopping our beautiful capitalistic engine from running. So Reagan busted the airline unions, and I guarantee you Trump would bust any major union protest if he had the ability to do so. Like, those types of authoritarian things need to be fought, but it has to be done by groupings of people. And Secessio Plebis is one of those things. It's the idea of democracy, like a real, fully fledged, fully formed, one vote, one person democracy. These are the kinds of things that work in that. That's why I thought this was a great quick save, and it's something that we could just end the show on as something fun, and I didn't think we'd get into as long as bit it was, but it's a pretty cool thing, a pretty cool idea.
Exactly. The last topic of the show, though, tonight, unfortunately, your quick saves are not the end of the show, Hannah.
We're keeping on. We're keeping on.
We do.
We're Joe and Dirt.
I do. I have one more, and I don't like Joe Dirt, but I have one more. I have one more thing that I thought was relevant to talk about, and it's kind of we go through all these things, and I put a outline together, and I talk through different things, and there's segments that get cut sometimes, and other ones that don't. But one of the ones that rung true with me this week was the Nobel Prizes, right? And I'll be honest, I've never paid attention to them. You see them in books mostly. That's where I normally see them. I hear about them in science, but I just don't care. It's never, I'm not that smart or that privileged enough to get put in front of the committee. So it is what it is, right? I'm excited that people get them, but I don't it's not, a big thing in my life. And I heard an article, or I guess, a newscast or whatever you want to call NPR's stuff nowadays.
Yeah, their NPR news thing they do at 1 minute after the hour or 1 minute before, 1 minute after, whatever they do, where they just, now the news, NPR news or whatever, where they do a little, yeah.
Well, I heard on All Things Considered today about how a Nobel Prize physicist finally, she won, and she's only the third woman to win this prize. And I was like, all right, I'm not really that surprised, I guess, especially with this whole, this whole thing about, Brett, the cover your mouth, you're screaming too much, and I don't want to hear anyone talk about this in case I try and run for office at some time later in the future, Kavanaugh situation that's going on right now. And, this isn't that surprising, but at the same time, it is a little shocking, especially when we talk about, you and I talk about the science community quite a bit. It's something that we really enjoy. This is a big thing for us. We try to do a science segment or some sort of science aspects on almost every type of show. And here we are talking about the highest prize you can win, or you can be awarded, I guess, in our world, in science right now. And there's this story. And then it makes me immediately question the legitimacy of the Nobel Prize. Now, not saying that men don't deserve it, right? But I'm asking the question of, wait a minute, hold on a second. Why is only 3 women in physics won this? Now, I'll be honest. I'm not that guy that can say, yeah, I know 20 women that work in physics. I'm not gonna try and say that. I'm not. In fairness, to that, I'm not that person, right? That's not been a topic I've ever thought about. But it was kind of funny because when they released the announcement, the lady was very, very surprised.
Yeah, when I was listening earlier today, they had the woman on there as one of the reporters. She mentioned it to the woman, and she was shocked. I couldn't believe it.
Get a microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Anneli Megner Arn from Swedish TV4. Congratulations on the prize.
Thank you.
You are the third woman ever getting the Nobel Prize in physics.
Is that all? Really?
What's your comments on that?
Okay. I thought there might have been more, but I couldn't think. Obviously, we need to celebrate women physicists because we're out there. And hopefully, in this time, it'll start to move forward at a faster rate, maybe. I don't know what to say. I'm honored to be one of those women.
And that's what's amazing about this. She says, I'm honored to be one of those women. She did not know that there was only 3. Because if you think about it, think about it in our terms, if you're just in your field, you're doing what you're doing, you just expect that there's, more of you out there, right? You just expect these different things. And then all of a sudden, you're somebody points it out and you're like, oh, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Really? Well, I'm glad I've been one of them, but I mean, what the hell, folks?
Yeah, this is indicative of a series of symptoms that have risen throughout a variety of these fields, especially the intellectuals, the intelligentsia, so to speak. I was kind of surprised. We love to talk about the intelligent and the intellectuals and the academics being these liberalized people who understand the intricacies and the equality of human and the benefit. But we do still see, even in the academic circles, this, they're still very patriarchal. We still see these places where women don't get the same kind of representation as men do. And I mean, the oldest fields like the academic circles of physics, where we basically saw the first major understandings of the world around us in the highest field in their or highest medal and prize in their field. They're not properly representing women. Now, the proper response is not a knee-jerk, 5 women get to win next year. A lot of people would like to see that, and I would obviously support more women winning more often. But what we need to do is look at this, in my opinion, as a symptom that there haven't been very many women. And what we need to do is that maybe the Nobel Prize, instead of saying, "Oh, we'll let more women win," is that they say, "Oh, we realize that this is an issue, and we're going to fund young women's grants. We're going to fund." Equal, or at least work to find more equal funding and more equal grants and more equal scholarships to try to drive up, more equality. And then if you look at it, if you bring in, race into it as well, Nobel could start putting, special funding into inner city schools that are impoverished as far as funds are concerned, and maybe fund special math symposiums and math mathnasiums, and there's a variety of things that maybe Nobel could get involved and start a young children's outreach for minority and women to help drive their numbers up in the science in the STEM fields. I mean, that to me would be a much better thing to do than just knee jerking to let more women win more often right out of the gate. We need to make this more of an economic or the ecology of science. It needs to be equalized a little bit better. I would love to see Nobel do something like that. To me, that seems like the moral thing to do. And then just say, yeah, we've recognized what we've done, and these are the things we're trying to doing to try to help it, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, we're going to let more women know. We're going to make sure we have a quota that we hit of women every year. You know what I mean? That's kind of like putting a Band-Aid or taking a Vicodin, as opposed to trying to figure out the cause and the reason for the pain and the disease or whatever. So that's just my perspective on what Nobel Prize and Nobel Institution itself needs to work on. I'm assuming the Fields Medal in math is the same way, and I bet you even the James Beard Award in cooking is probably the same way. A lot of these awards they have issues and they need to think a little bit about. And I mean, self-reflection is never a bad thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you actually, in that aspect. Like, I don't want to see it all of a sudden turn into this, well, we have to do this because. And I did a little research. Disingenuous. I'll be honest with you. I did a little research. I mean, I guess, again, I'm not super shocked, that women are not getting the nod that they should. But this is the funny thing here, right? The Nobel Prize website talks about the women that have been awarded this prize, right? They do. They actually talk about this. And so I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because I was doing research, and like when you Google it, they talk, it's like, okay, here, let me Google this. Let me find, is there a gender disparity, blah, 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 blah. And, I found an article that talks about gender disparity inside of the STEM fields, right?
Yeah. And
they talk about only a small portion have been awarded to women. Out of, at the time the article was written, out of 199 people in physics, 169 in chemistry, 207 in medicine, and those are just 3 of the categories, right? That only 3 now women in physics, 4 women in chemistry, and 11 women in medicine have been awarded. So 11, 4, and 3 is 18, right? Yeah. That means out of all the other awards, there's been a few more women. The website talks about 49 unique women getting this award, right? So we're talking about, in that portion, the STEM's fields, only 18 women out of 49 have gotten that award. So out of the other two, fields,
you get a lot of calculator action.
I do. It's kind of fun. It's kind of actually fun. That's I like doing that. I'm sorry. Like, that's a geek part of me. But out of the other fields, 63% of the women have been awarded in the other fields, right? The other couple of fields, which are obviously the not specific science field of literature and the Peace Prize. So the science fields only maintain 36% of the women there. Guess what? Of all of the total nominees and people that have been awarded, I guess not the total nominees, I'm sorry, the total people that have been awarded, there has been a unique amount of 892 individuals and 24 unique organizations. That's a little over 5% of the people who have won have been women. 95% have been men. Now, we're not talking ethnicity here. We're just going based on gender.
Yep.
That's insane. I'm sorry.
That's terrible.
That is like that statistic right there makes me question the validity or the however you want to say it. Validity. Fuck you. The validity of this whole Nobel Prize organization. And I get it. Like you and I'm with you, man. I want these like science awards. I want us to like stand up and be like, yes, look how smart people are. But when you see that, and you see that the population is made up of, over 49% women, you want to go, hold on a second, folks. Hold on. What the hell's going on here? Only 5% of them are smart? No wonder we have these fucking MRE people. No wonder we have these people, because they're like, look at these statistics. And all it is just self-serving garbage where, men are like, yep, I'm going to congratulate other men because, we just don't know about the women. It's like, stop. Yeah. How many people do you know that are in there? Yeah, exactly.
Congress has got 20% women, and in our society, where the majority of humans in our society are female, we have it's like 51 to 49% female majority in the United States. It's just these are things that there's no fast fix to this. So like anybody who says they have a solution that they can instantaneously solve this they're lying. There is no fast solution to this. The solution is what we always talk about when it comes to what you have to do to change the economic system, change the political system, change education, or whatever. It has to start from the ground up. It has to be a long form plan, and Nobel needs to instigate something just like we need to do in our education systems, where we need to teach science, we need to teach teach philosophy. We need to teach questioning. We need to work on creating the kind of people we want to run our society in the future, and they need to be whole and balanced. And the same thing with our award ceremonies. They need to be, there needs to be, advantage removed from certain group of people, and justifications for any kind of special treatment. It has to be clear. There shouldn't be special treatment just because of your birth status. That the lucky lottery that you were born into a family, and that family just happens to have a legacy to Yale, and that one day you'll be on a bench trying to be a Supreme Court nominee. Like that's not what should get you into that special spot. It should be how hard you work and how smart you are.
Exactly. And that's just, I don't know, I hate awards and I hate all these other things sometimes because I think they create a way to create dissension, A, and B, they create a way to create privilege among other people. But some of it is somewhat necessary. The problem is it's this human thing. It's, we're all human. We all make mistakes.
It won't be perfectly 50-50 ever, but we need to at least come somewhat. 5% is just not even trying.
Exactly. And when you see this, my question is, and again, go back to the Nobel, or go back to the NPR article, right? Go back. They talk about this, but where's the statistics in here? And I'll be honest. I'm gonna call them out a little bit because
NPR.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was a very easy calculation for me to come up with. That should be a headline right there. By the way, Nobel Prizes only consist of 5% women. That should be we should write an article. This should be like a viral effing article. And I don't want to do this now. This isn't about me, and this is about spreading knowledge for me. And it's not about, getting recognition. I don't want the recognition, because I'm not the first person I'm sure that saw this. I'm not some genius, right? I'm just saying is that, wow, NPR missed a huge opportunity to not only call out the Nobel Prize here, everybody else is missing it as well. There's this huge opportunity to be like, look, do you understand there's bias? And people want to shame the Me Too movement. People want to be upset because, Brett, do I need to say it again? Do I need to say his whole thing? I think I do. No, I think I do, because he wants to cover your mouth because you're screaming too much, and he doesn't want anyone else to hear in case he has to run for office or something like that, Kavanaugh, because people are upset by that. People are upset that we should just put this fucking rapist in power and we should just move on because it fits their political agenda. In fairness, Hannah, the Nobel Prize fits your and I political agenda when it comes to recognizing the sciences and the mathematics fields and the engineering fields inside of, what we lauder as, how we can move society forward. But even in our little niche fields here, there's extreme sexism. There's extreme bias. And you know what I want to see? I think the Nobel Prize should take a whole year off. Not to all of a sudden present more women, but to figure out on a business scale how they can actually genuinely demonstrate that they're going to be more proactive, to be inclusive of minorities inside of their awards system.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to take a year off. They have to be fully forthcoming on what they're going to do to change. And then they have to show, it has to be transparent. They have to show what they do at the end of the year. At the end of the year, you get a report card. These are the changes that we made. This is the results. These are the number of girls that we've gotten into college tuition free because they were overlooked or something, whatever. I mean, a whole kind of different things. I would love to see what all these super smart people at the Nobel Club could think up. They're way smarter than we'll ever be, and they should be able to pick something out perfect and do it. I mean, just do something, because what you're doing right now ain't good enough.
Exactly, and that's the problem I have with this, folks. That's where we get into this whole discussion point of where do we fit, where do we sit. And we spent many episodes ranting and raving about the 45's failure as an administration. We talk about the harm that they're creating. We talk about, how the society is moving towards a Me Too movement and being inclusive. We talk about Black Lives Matter. We talk about all these things. But if people don't get out there and say, we're no longer going to respect the Nobel Prize Society, right? Maybe we should boycott books from them. Maybe we should boycott people giving speeches. And it's funny, one of the articles I was reading talks about the absurdity of this, right? In some aspects, there's an absurdity to this discussion here. And you know why? Because if you get this award, and we'll forget about the money for a second, you get this award, you all of a sudden get moved into this elite group.
And you get $1 million.
And you're $1 million. But you're moved into this elite group that allows for you to get more interviews, give more talks. You're now getting paid to do all these other things. People are wanting you to come. And it's disgusting, some of the behavior that's come out of that. We could talk about that. We could talk about, for hours on end, the disgusting men that have created horrible behavior because they've been put in a status of power. And I'm not saying that putting women in power is going to change that. I think it will, personally. How many times do you hear about, women sexually harassing men? And it's not very often. So, but on the opposite side of things, if they can stop and at least acknowledge this, if they can acknowledge the fact that they're creating this disparity, they can change it. What's the first step to recovery? Acknowledgement. And I'm sorry, I'll borrow from a garbage organization, but that at least aspect is true. If you can acknowledge it, you can change it. And the difference is you and I sit here and we want to give them credit because it fits our MO, man. I'm sorry, but I love science. I want science to succeed, and I want religion to fail.
Well, that's why the scientific community should be able to realize this. These are the smartest people in the world. We give them credit all the time for saying, we want people to be more up in that area. And, they should be able to figure this out.
They should be. And it almost feels like they're not able to.
We should revisit this maybe in 6 months or something.
We should. And I think that's the important part of our conversation here, is that no longer can we all sit by and be idle about this. Last week we were outraged about Brett, and I'm not even going to pronounce his whole garbage, new thing. And I think that should be the name of the show sometimes. But, that was an outrage. Trump's an outrage. Every week there's something new. But if we want to look at the things, the articles, the conversations that are being missed, I think this Nobel Prize thing is being missed here. I think this is an opportunity to have a deeper conversation to say, hey, look, it affects more areas than we thought it did before. Thank you all so much for joining us for another Cellar of Skeptics. We'll be back next week. We are working on getting our Michigan delegate conversations going. So hopefully next week you'll hear more about Michigan candidates that are going to be on the ballot and how you can go out and help support them to change Michigan to be a more progressive state away from the garbage GOP state we have right now. Thank you all so much and have an amazing evening.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker. CellarDoorSkeptics.com